just watch. What's going on, everyone? I'm Jaren, and today we are talking about Beau is Afraid. Written and directed by Ari Aster and stars Joaquin Phoenix. The story follows the sudden death of his mother as a mild mannered and anxiety ridden man must confront his darkest fears as he embarks on an epic Kafkaesque odyssey back home. This was one of the most frustrating, outrageous, alienating, and ridiculously riveting movie-going experiences I've had since Darren Aronofsky's Mother. Not like Darren Aronofsky's Mother, but the movie Mother. I don't know, and I am in shock at the ability of Ari Aster to completely piss me off or consider him an actual genius. All right, getting right into it. This movie was too fucking long. I've seen 3+ hour movies before, but it felt more like five. There were a lot of moments, a lot of elongated ones that could have been trimmed down for the sake of its pacing. Also, this movie was marketed as a horror comedy, which I feel like is a misinterpretation, considering that it was more like a dramedy, a dark comedy, if you will. There are unsettling and bizarre images scattered throughout the film, but nothing heavy to classify it as part of the horror genre, and especially in comparison to his previous films like Midsummer and Hereditary. From the very first frame, there is a heightened and over exaggerated perspective on reality, indicating that we are seeing and experiencing everything through the lens of Beau. And Beau is instantly someone that the audience recognizes and sympathizes with because he's feeling very victimized and traumatized by this particular world, but his actions say otherwise. What if Bilbo and Frodo Baggins on their journeys of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, what if they went on their quest and they didn't learn anything? What if they didn't change for the better? I was really enjoying the pacing of the first act, and there were so many strange and comedic nuggets that were sprinkled throughout the film that my friend Miley and I had a blast pointing out a lot of the visual humor. Unfortunately, my friend Aaron and the rest of our auditorium were a really tough crowd. Around the 90-minute mark, where the second act transitions into the forest, began a much grueling task for the audience to be patient and stick with the weirdness. And once the play production began, I suddenly heard a lot of yawning, a lot of phone and watch lights just went up, and I saw a lot of people going to the lavatories. Although, I'm not gonna lie, the 15-minute dialogue that happens during the presentation of the play really sent me adrift until I actually woke up from my own snoring. A24 gave Ari Aster $35 million for this production, and he does wonders with what he chooses to put on display. And whether it's a small or large scope in detail, the way that he approaches a lot of the scenery is done with meticulous care, especially with the scene where Beau is imagining himself as the main character in the play production. That was actually one of my favorite set pieces, as well as its execution. I almost wish that we got to hinder in that world just a little bit longer, if not for the fucking monotone narrative. What Joaquin Phoenix brings to the role of Beau cannot be replicated. There are moments where he is stoic and lost for words, and you're thinking to yourself, how pathetic this character is. And I remember looking into some of the podcast interviews where Phoenix would express how miserable he was, preparing for scenes that were just impossible to translate from script to reality. And there is a level of fear, paranoia, and sorrow that he emulates throughout from beginning to the end, and that is just remarkable. And just like my first viewing of Hereditary, this is going to be a difficult recommendation for the general public at face value, but there were a few things that I took away from it, and one of those things would have to be how Beau's state of mind is inflated by real world problems, dangers, and threats surrounding him. One of those things would probably include how everyone would treat something as delicate as mental illness so dismissively. Take, for example, the couple played by Nathan Lane and Amy Ryan, how they were able to give so much generosity and care to Bo that it was difficult for him to open up and accept it because there's so much potential for things to go completely wrong, and these empaths are just so easy to turn against someone with that kind of mental instability. The second thing would be generational trauma. Bo's depression and lack of trust is fueled by his toxic relationship with his mother, afflicted by emotional abuse and possibly physical abuse as a child. A lot of Bo's trauma is a repeating cycle of the past, present, and possible future. This reflects on some of the derailing events that prevent him from going to his mom's house in the first place. Like when he loses his keys and luggage, instead of, just going by with it and just jumping on the plane, he stops to give her a call and starts making excuses because subconsciously he didn't want to go. He wanted to lose those keys and luggage and like make up some sort of excuse. He wants to avoid seeing his mother without feeling that guilt. How did I have a lot of insight about that? Well, you know what? I got mommy issues too, so fuck you. The third and final thing would have to be escape and intimacy. From his first innocent encounter to rekindling his relationship with Elaine, played by Parker Posey, he is frightened to pursue a long term, committed, intimate relationship. For some reason, it involves his inability to complete sexual intercourse, and for non spoiler reasons, he could possibly die. The other thing would be the fear of the waves of depression that would get in between of him and his choices, his long-term goals, and even starting a family as the play production reflects on. And he is also afraid of becoming a father. He's afraid of treating his children the way that his mother has treated him or the way that his grandmother treated his mother. It's a repeating cycle of suffering. Before we even got to that ending, I was completely checked out, but upon retrospect, it does reflect a lot about us as the audience more than you know. Overall, I think this might be the most divisive and controversial piece of work that Ari Aster has ever done so far. And I can see that a lot of people are exercising their eyeballs with this, and there are some who are saying that he is the new voice of filmmaking. Knowing what I know now, I think a second viewing might be a little more digestible. And although this movie might have not been the best that I've seen in the last 5 months, I think this is gonna be one of the most original films this year. And I respect that. Alright, guys, that's all I got to share about that movie. Go ahead and check it out if you feel like it. If it's strange, weird, and it's your cup of tea, go and support it. If it's playing at your local movie theater, I think the last day was like last week, Thursday, for us to go and check it out. But I mean, I'd definitely check it out again if I could, with just a little bit more patience with it. And thank you guys again so much for watching. I'm Jaren Banawag. Look forward to more reviews. I got that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming up later on this week. In the meantime, stay healthy, safe. I'll see you guys at the movies. Take care. Sweet devotion.